Okay, welcome everybody to today's live webinar, Intro to Cloud Storage. So my name is Rebecca Van Dusen and I am a library associate here at the Champaign Public Library. If you've attended any tech workshops in the past, I've been helping with those. I occasionally teach a class as well. And I also work at the information desk, so you probably have seen me if you're in the library. Before I introduce our technology librarian, Susan Winkler, I'd like to mention some of the Zoom features. So if you hover your mouse near the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see some controls that are going to pop up. So at the very bottom left, you'll see where you can adjust your audio settings, like changing your speaker or your volume. More towards the center, you'll see a couple of icons. One is a chat bubble that will let you get into the chat feature where you can write questions to us throughout the webinar. There's also a raise hand option. So we use both of those if you have questions. You can always write questions in the chat, which I can relay to Susan or help answer in the background during the webinar. Or if you'd like to speak your question rather than write it out, you can use the raise hand option. So that will let us know that you want to use your mic and I can unmute you. And if you have live transcriptions going, you should see those at the bottom of your screen as well. You can toggle those on or off by clicking on the live transcription button, which is just a rectangle with two letter C's in the inside. And of course, throughout the webinar, if you have questions, feel free to ask. Don't feel like you're interrupting. We're definitely here to help. So if you get lost or want us to show something again, just let us know. I'll be in the background helping answer questions through chat, but I also occasionally will throw those questions out to Susan so that the whole class can see. Yeah, so basically just don't be afraid to ask questions. We will also send out the handout. I'm going to put the link to the handout in the chat as well. So if you want access to that, that will be in the chat. Now, don't feel like you have to access that right now. We will send that later in an email. So the email will have the slides. It will also have an activity sheet for the webinar today. Okay, I think that covers it on my end. Let's go ahead and welcome Susan Winkler. How are you today, Susan?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Rebecca. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. Well, I hope everyone's excited to learn a little bit about cloud storage today. This is probably one of the most important things that we are experiencing now as more and more of us have cell phones that have the need to back them up almost immediately, and the need to back up all of our other data and files and folders and everything else that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can get started with our PowerPoint today. We'll start from the beginning. Here we go. Okay. So what we're going to cover today, we'll talk a little bit about what is the cloud, and some terms and some definitions, because again, like anything, technology is set up the same way you might be learning a new language. There's a lot of vocabulary words and things that it's good if you know them before you move on to discussing the larger theoretical ideas behind them too. We'll talk about what we can put in the cloud, and then we'll talk about some advantages and disadvantages to cloud and cloud storage. We're going to focus mostly today, since it's cloud storage, on the cloud storage side of things rather than cloud computing. But we're going to talk about what the differences are between those two things as well. And then we'll go into some examples of cloud storage providers. And we'll point you to some other resources where you can look at what other people have done to evaluate different cloud storage providers. We will then go into two demos. I can switch to my next slide. A demo of Microsoft OneDrive and a demo of Google Drive. These are not, we don't want to preface these over other possible cloud storage providers, but these are two of the major storage providers that do provide a certain amount of storage space for free, where you can create a free account and then use that free account to play with them and get used to them and kind of experiment. So that's why we pick these two specifically. They're not inherently the best or the worst or anything like that as far as cloud storage providers go. It's just that they are two of the ones that we can demo pretty easily today. And then in the additional resources section, that being said, in the additional resource section, we have more information about other cloud storage service providers that you can take a look at. I know one of the major ones that everyone is probably wondering about is Icloud. Icloud is a major provider of cloud storage, in particular for folks that have either an iPhone or an iPad or a MacBook. And we won't be demoing that today, but we can certainly answer questions about it. And we've included it in the additional resources section, some tutorials for how to get started using iCloud as well. So if you do have questions about that, you can feel free to put them in the chat too, because I know that is another one that a lot of people have, and you have by the nature of having an Apple device. So, okay. Are there any questions before we start?
I don't see any questions. I should also say that you can get iCloud even if you don't have a Apple device.
That's true, yes. And we'll talk about it a little bit later. They do offer a little bit of storage and space up on iCloud, even if you don't have an iOS device, even if you don't have like an Apple iPhone or iPad or MacBook. So you could experiment a little bit with iCloud, just like you could with Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive or Dropbox or Box or any of the other ones that are out there. Okay, thank you, Rebecca. That is a good point. All right. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. So what is the cloud? Well, it's not just fluffy things in the sky, though when they were first talking about what the cloud would be, there's sort of this apocryphal folklorish idea that when they were basically looking at a whiteboard and they were like, okay, well, this is what it's going to be. It's going to include some stuff. And they just kind of, people just kind of drew clouds and were like, something's going to be in there, where the term cloud kind of stuck. So cloud is basically a network of computers or servers owned by a person or a company that other people or companies use to store data. So essentially, there are physical computers and physical servers owned by, say, Amazon or Google or another company. And the primary function of those servers or computers in this particular instance is to house the data of other people or companies. And usually a lot of them are paid services. So like we said, some of them allow you to have a little bit for free. And then if you want to do more or put more in there, you have to pay for it. Okay. So I've put the other two definitions in here too. The second definition, a term used to describe web-based applications or files that are stored on a shared remote server and accessible to users through a login, which basically is like we were saying, you get an account with these different providers, you log in with that account, and then you can access all the stuff that you've put up there. The component here, web-based applications, is a little bit more on the side of cloud computing, which means you can use the say, if anybody's heard of Google Docs or Sheets or Slides, you can use these web-based applications. They're like programs like you would put on your desktop of your computer, like Microsoft Word or Excel or PowerPoint or whatever, but you access them through the internet. So you have to get to them first through the internet, and they live behind a login that you use to get to them. The idea of a remote server just means that it's not at the same location that you're accessing your information, okay? And the third definition I like the best because I think it's the most accurate for I think what a lot of folks use cloud storage for, which is essentially it's a virtual locker where you can remotely store your data. And even though we say virtual, what we really mean is there are physical things elsewhere where this data is going. But for you, all you have to call them up is whatever device you own or you're using that can access the internet and go to your virtual storage area or virtual locker where you can then pull out whatever you need. Okay. So to just give you an idea, I like including all three of these definitions because I think it does say the cloud is kind of a morphs a little bit between whether we're talking about simply the storage side of it or the productivity side of it or other things that you can do that kind of need to access those things that are on the web. Okay, so here's a little bit more to extrapolate on that idea of cloud computing and storage and local storage. So local storage and local computing is going to be all the things that are on your local device. So the device that's right in front of you and is accessed without the internet at all. So it's data and files that are stored on your own personal computer hard drive is local storage. The programs that are housed on your personal computer and run on that computer use local computing. So if you've downloaded from the internet a version of Microsoft Word, and then you don't use the internet again, you have your internet turned off, you can still have Microsoft Word function. Okay. With cloud computing, you use cloud computing to complete those specific tasks or get something done rather than storing the files alone. So it's using processing power to perform a function, and it's something that you have to do online. So if you had Word 365 or Microsoft 365, you would use Word online to do the same function that you could do in Microsoft Word on your desktop computer. So the basic difference is local storage and local computing is going to be local in the sense of your own device that you have in front of you that doesn't require internet to get to or access. With cloud computing and cloud storage, the cloud storage, like we say, is basically virtual storage that spans many different physical storage devices. So if you had your cloud service provider, say you have Google, for example, and you have a bunch of stuff stored in Google Drive. Well, it's not really, it's stored on servers owned by Google, and Google stores them in, different places. So there might be one in Texas, there might be one in Maine, or other places where they have these big data farms and server farms where all of this information is called from. Okay, so the physical storage devices are multiple locations offsite from your current physical location. And that's a deliberate form of redundancy, so that if one thing fails along that chain of getting your data to you, something else can fill in that hole in the data chain so that it still gets to you and it doesn't interrupt your experience as the end user. Okay, so you essentially use it to store data. Specifically, cloud storage is used to store data or files, whereas cloud computing would be using things on the web to do stuff like productivity, like creating things and using that processing power to perform a task or do something. Okay. Any questions about that? I'm hoping that made enough sense.
I don't see any questions so far.
Okay, so what you can put in the cloud. You can pretty much put anything you want in the cloud. There are some things to consider, privacy-wise, security-wise, all of that kind of stuff. But essentially, whatever you want to put up there, whatever kind of file you want to put up there, you can. And whatever device you want to use to do it, you can. So you can connect your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop, your desktop computer, basically anything that has access to the internet and can access your cloud service provider. So in that case, if you're using Amazon or Google or Dropbox or Box, these are all just some cloud storage providers. As long as they have an app that you can get to on your tablet or your smartphone, or you can get to the website from your laptop or your desktop, you can access it and you can put up what you need. In some instances, you have a specific goal, like for your smartphone. For most of us, we use the cloud storage to essentially back up things like our contact list, maybe our photographs, and maybe our music, things like that, where it's happening in the background and you don't actually have to do a whole lot to make that happen. Whenever there's something new that's added to the phone or a new contact is added, then that smartphone is going to know that it needs to back up that new contact. That way, when you get a new smartphone and you have to transfer everything over, you can transfer everything over because it's backed up in the cloud. Okay. So a little bit more, just because I think this is really a cool topic. The server. So when I say server, it's basically a physical computer that's responding to requests over a computer network. So it's basically linked to call up your specific data when you ask for it wherever you are. So you sitting here in Champaign, Illinois, can ask for your Google Drive to call up this file that is actually stored on a server somewhere else, and then you'll get it pretty much right away. A data center is a facility that stores the physical equipment, like the servers, that are used by folks that provide cloud access. So they often include servers and complex cooling systems because, of course, as they generate energy and heat, they need to have cooling systems to cool down the servers and the computers and all of the electronic equipment that's there. Here in Champaign, we actually have a supercomputing facility, which looks a little bit like this in that it has rows and rows and rows of servers. If you haven't been to, I believe it's called Blue Waters. Is that right? I can't remember.
Yeah,
I think it's the Blue
Waters
supercomputing facility here on campus. They usually open it for, I think if we have the engineering open house again this year in person, they usually open it up for tours. You can also, I don't know if you can call and just get a tour on your own, but if you get a chance to go at any point in time, I do encourage you to check it out. It is a really interesting and fascinating experience to walk through the room of servers and computers and just think about all the processing power that comes out of that. And you can talk to them about how they cool everything down too. So so that's a nice little interesting Champaign connection there too. Champaign-Urbana University of Illinois supercomputing facility. Okay. So also, we are probably already using the cloud and we just don't necessarily realize that we're using the cloud, which I put in quotes, your email, right? If you have Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook, pretty much any Hotmail, any of those are actually using the cloud because your email is stored on a server. And when you get on a computer, you're calling it up and you're looking at those messages, but those messages are not saved on that specific machine that you're on at that time. They're in the cloud. So things like Flickr or online applications, again, this would be the cloud computing side of things, like Office 365, if you've heard of that, and Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms, all of those things. They're all using the cloud to either allow you to do cloud computing or to store and house your information. Backing up devices, as I mentioned before with smartphones, is another big one. Most of us have heard of iCloud or Google Drive. Outlook has one called OneDrive, which we're going to take a closer look at in just a minute. But all of these are service providers that basically allow you to do things in the cloud still. So, and you may not realize that you've already been doing stuff in the cloud. Okay, questions about the first section here? Kind of the basics of cloud.
Yeah, I don't see any questions.
Okay. Okay, so what can I put in the cloud? You can tell me in the chat if you want what kinds of things you think you would want to put in the cloud. But basically you can put anything up there. Like we said, pictures, documents, music, videos, whatever kind of file type you want, you can put it up in your cloud. Many people choose to use cloud storage as a backup location for important files or folders because that way it's not only saved on one device. So for example, if you saved everything on your smartphone, right? So you've got your smartphone and you save everything directly to your smartphone. Pretty soon you're going to run out of space to start with because there's a finite amount of space on that phone itself. And if you lose that phone or it gets stolen or, you drop it in a pool or something, the likelihood of recovering all of that data is not going to be as great if you don't have a backup of it. So a lot of folks will use cloud storage to back up important files or folders, things that are meaningful to them or are very important in some way. Okay, so, but essentially you can put whatever you want up there. Some things to consider though, before you go ahead and put whatever you want up there are the things like security and privacy and permissions and everything else. So we're going to go through a list of some advantages and some disadvantages of cloud storage. One of the major advantages is convenience. You can log into it from pretty much any of the services that I've run across so far. You can log in from any device. So you could log into it from your tablet, you could log into it from your phone, from any desktop computer. So you could come here to the library and use our computers. And as long as you know your username and password for your cloud storage provider, you could log into your cloud storage here at the library and access those files. Okay. Permissions. You can actually share files and folders via link or email with someone else. This can be a double-edged. This can be both an advantage and disadvantage, but you can also revoke the positions or the permissions if needed after a while. So for example, if I was planning a baby shower for someone, and let's say I wanted, 4 other people to see the file that is a spreadsheet of who's bringing what to the baby shower, I can share that with those 4 or 5 people. After the baby shower has happened, we probably don't still need to have the list of who brought what. And maybe I just want to go ahead and revoke permissions and say, okay, we don't need this anymore, so I'm going to delete it, or I'm going to revoke permissions for someone because the project's finished and we no longer need to all have access to something. Okay. Your space constraints is an advantage because it doesn't take up space on your actual physical computer. So we talk about this also in our intro to digital file storage class. You can expand your physical computer a couple of times and so far and increase, what it can do. But you don't necessarily have to, because you could just put stuff up in the cloud instead, and then it's not having to do anything to your physical computer. Okay. One advantage, online backup. As we said, you can do a manual backup where you put your most important files in both the cloud and on the physical computer, because if your physical computer fails in some way, say it gets fried by, lightning strikes and it goes through and it fries your computer. Well, then you're out that computer, but you're not out your data, because your data and your files are still recoverable because they're in the cloud. Okay, so you can do that where it's manual and you select the important files and folders for you, and then you go ahead and put them, where you want, and you do it once a month on your own time frame, on your own schedule. Or you can do what are selective and comprehensive, which means selective is you pick them. Comprehensive is that online storage provider just goes, okay, I'm going to scan your entire computer and find anything that's new and add it to everything that's already up there. Okay. And like I said, yeah, so if something happens to the physical computer, the cloud files are still safe. Okay. Questions about some of the advantages? Okay, we'll talk about disadvantages here too.
I haven't seen any so far, but I will let you know.
Okay, so some of the disadvantages. It does require an internet access to first get to those files that you've put up there. So if you don't have a connection, you don't have access. If you have a bad connection, you either have no access or very slow access, which means it can take a lot longer to access and get to those files and folders. Okay. There's potential, a disadvantage might be the cost. You can weigh this against the disadvantage being a cost of, replacing your physical computer with a computer with more capacity and more space as well. But there is a potential cost for the storage space itself. And you have to consider also the cost of internet access from an internet service provider. Now, you might not totally need to consider the cost for internet access if you're getting your internet access for free, say by coming here to the public library and using our internet, or going to, wherever you can get free internet provider, free internet service. Okay, so you got to consider that. Privacy and security is another thing to consider. Not all services let you password protect files and folders. Once you have shared something with someone, they could, and you've given them, permissions, files might be downloaded and shared with other people that you hadn't intended to share it with. You have to consider how secure is each of these services really, and you'll want to read through the terms of service. I know they're long, those, and sometimes get very cumbersome. Or you want to take at least the time to evaluate each of the service providers to see whether or not it's really going to fit for your needs and your use. Okay. Okay, so here is a quick little chart of just some. There are far more than this, but I just wanted to give you kind of an idea of some of the services and how they're similar to each other. So for example, with Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, and iCloud that we're going to talk about just real briefly in this chart. The things that are required, almost every one of these will require you to have some kind of device that you can use to access it eventually. Doesn't have to be owned by you, but it just has to be a device that you can use to access this. You have to have an account. So you have to create an account, usually using an email address. So usually you'll have to at least have an email address for this. And then you get a certain amount for free. And you can see that varies. So for Google Drive, it's 15, Dropbox is 2, OneDrive I think is 5. And I think iCloud, like Rebecca said, iCloud will let you do 5 gigabytes for free. Okay. After that point, they all have a pay scale model where you can do basically a subscription-based pay per month or per year, or you pay once for the whole year and then you have that subscription for the whole year. Okay. Excuse me. And you can go through and kind of figure out which one is going to best suit your needs based on how much you think you're going to be putting in the cloud for storing, and how much you want to access. And sometimes they're bundled too. So with Google Drive and OneDrive, they're also bundled with where you can get so for example, with OneDrive, you can get with a Microsoft account, you can also get access to Microsoft Word and Excel and PowerPoint online. So that is wrapped up in having a Microsoft account already. So you might want to weigh whether or not you get access to other things and other features. Google Drive, the same thing is true, where if you have a Google account, you get access to Sheets and Docs and Slides as well. Okay, so you got to consider whether or not there's other things that come with these accounts that make them more beneficial to you. Okay, but you can also see that in most of the sort of features that they have, they all kind of have the same sort of idea of what the features are. Being able to share a link, or share a link via email, or share a link directly. You can view and download and copy things. You can allow other people to edit them, or comment, or you can revoke or remove the access. Okay. Okay. So I also wanted to give you, since I said, those are just some 4 that we've picked out just to highlight real quick. PC Magazine each year does a review where they go through and review a lot of cloud storage and file sharing services. So here, for example, was their 2021 comparing the specs. I'm going to take a quick drink of water and let you guys kind of look at this for just a second. But if you can see, they're basically check marking off, making their own chart of what they all include, what features are really good about it, whether or not you can get it on an Android phone or an iOS device like an iPhone or iPad. Can you keep different versions of the files? What's the size limit? How much can I put up there? All of that kind of stuff. So you can see that there's a lot of them out there. Some of them are designed more for businesses and small businesses, and to host information for the business sector. And some of them are more designed for personal use and for individual people. So you also want, when you're evaluating them, make sure you take a look at what their major market is and what their major audience is and who they're trying to appeal. We talked about file sharing and cloud storage. One of the other things to think about too is there are some cloud storage providers out there that are simply there to help back up your data rather than having you edit, share, or modify it. So PC Magazine has also done some reviews of those. So, if you need to protect your computer from data loss threats, including hard drive failure, ransomware, or disasters, or things like that, an online backup service makes it easy to secure all of those files. So you also want to look at what their security features are. What kind of privacy issues do you have with any of these? And a lot of times looking them up and doing some research on them ahead of time will help you pick which one's right for you. Questions about that?
I don't see any so far.
So far? Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is then we'll go ahead and transition into the demo portion, but I'll give a pause here too in case anybody does have questions over more of the kind of theoretical side of things too. And what we'll do is we've already created a OneDrive account for the library and a Google Drive account for the library. So we're going to go ahead and do some demos of those two services. I do encourage you, if you want to explore cloud storage, it's a good idea to go ahead and find a cloud storage provider, research it a little bit, see which one you want to try out, try it, put some stuff up that you don't care about, that doesn't have any personal meaning. You won't be upset if it's lost at the beginning as a form of practice to move it around and do different things with the files and kind of manipulate them in whatever way you might want in the online environment. And then that will also help you determine which one might be the best fit for you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this and we'll go to our live demo instead. So one moment here. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll go ahead and start with, let's see, OneDrive. Okay, so sorry, excuse me. This is our library OneDrive account. And the way you can first get to this, if you don't already have a OneDrive account, is you can create one by just going to outlook.com and signing up for an Outlook account. With that, you get the email address and you get access to OneDrive for 5 gigabytes. Okay. So what we've got here, this is just the general layout for OneDrive. The 9 dots up here, if I click on it, will also take me to the other things, the other online web-based applications that I have access to, including email and Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Skype, some other calendar, all those features and apps. Okay, so that's what the 9 dots do. So you can move in between things rather quickly using the 9 dots up here as your navigation. Okay, over here in the middle, you can, with the magnifying glass, and if you've taken any of our tech workshops before, you've probably heard me say this many times. If you see a magnifying glass and it does not have a plus or minus in it, it means search. It's kind of becoming a pretty universal search is equals magnifying glass. So we could search for something. We could search for something that we've already put up here. For example, since I know in the past I've put up a picture of a puppy, I'm thinking this is going to pull up a puppy picture, and there we go. So I can search for files, I can search for folders, I can search for, whatever I think I've put up here. Just like on your computer, if you were using either File Explorer on a Windows machine or I believe Finder on a Mac. Is that right, Rebecca? It's Finder, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, so Finder to find your files or folders. Okay, so it works kind of the same way. And they've even structured cloud storage providers like this to feel a little bit like it's mimicking your computer in that way. So over here, if I wanted to upgrade my account, and by over here, I apologize, I mean to the right-hand side here where there's this little diamond up in the top navigation here. That is if you want to upgrade your account so you can learn more about the different plans. The gear here, also pretty universal symbol now for settings. So if I clicked on this, I could figure out what settings I have and things that I could change about my OneDrive experience. And then the question mark is for help. So if there's something you don't know how to do and you want to learn how to do it, generally speaking, you can use the help menu to access that. And then over here is just the account manager, which basically is, whether or not I want to sign out of my OneDrive or jump into my profile or do something with that. Okay. We'll move over here to the left-hand side and go down what we call the left-hand navigation, which moves down in this little column over here off to the very left. So I can look at my files. So if I click on my files, it's a lot like, again, File Explorer or Finder, where you then can look through each of your folders. If you have folders here, you can look through them, and then you can see standalone documents as well. Okay, and that's your files. The recent is going to bring up anything that you've accessed recently. For us, we haven't accessed this since the last time we did training, so it's not truly that recently for our files that we've accessed and opened. Probably the last time we taught the workshop, in fact. Photos, if you want specifically your photos, you can see them here. Incidentally, if you have OneDrive linked to a smartphone, you can also take your photos from your smartphone and you can link them directly to OneDrive as a backup and storage system. So much like you can do with Google or with Apple for the iCloud, you can basically have it automatically back up to here if you've paid or set it up so that it will automatically back up your photos here. In our case, we've just added a couple photos and we've put them up here, okay? And our photos are actually coming from Pixabay, which the artists are gracious enough to let folks use them for creative uses and educational purposes without having to have a copyright issue. So we use them a lot for pictures of adorable animals like you see in front of you here. So if I go back here, these three little dots, again, that brings up that same navigation on the, excuse me, on the left-hand side. If I go to shared, this is going to be things that I have shared with other people. And I'll show you how to share stuff in just a moment, but I want you to know that that is an option. So I shared this adorable little puppy with someone else, and now it's telling me that I have shared it with someone. Okay, the recycle bin works just like the recycle bin or the trash on your desktop computer, where you can move files you no longer need into the recycle bin. You do still have to empty the recycle bin in order for them to be off of your cloud provider. Okay, so just like on your actual desktop computer, if you put something in the recycle bin, it stays there until you empty the bin. Okay, and in most cases, the recycle bin here, you know, right now it's empty, but if I put something in there, it'll be in there until I empty the recycle bin. Okay, all right, we're gonna go back up to my files. The next thing I want you to notice is right here in the middle, just above where it says my files. So if you can see, I'm trying to draw, can you see the little square I'm drawing around it? I hope.
Yes.
Okay, so just above where it says my files, we have two different options up here. We have new and upload. So here we could create a new document or a new folder to put into our files, or we can upload something from our computer or whatever device we're on. So if I want to create a new folder where I'm going to put some pictures, let's say, I'm going to create a folder. So I'll come down to new and I'll tap on folder. And then I'm going to call these, let's say July 20th pictures. And I'm going to say create. And then immediately it's going to create that new folder for me where I can put my July 20th pictures. Okay. And I'm going to put some pictures in there and I'm going to do two different ways. So the first thing I'm going to do, I have to go find those pictures to upload, right? So I'm going to go to upload and pick files. And then I'm going to pick where I've put them. And I think I saved them to the desktop. Yes, here they are. Of course, more puppies and kitties, right? So I'm going to go ahead and upload my kitties, which include cat reaching and kitten tree. And what I'm doing is I'm just selecting both of those at once. You can do this. You can upload more than one at a time. And then I'm going to hit open. Now what that's going to do, it's going to upload two items to my files. So if I'm looking here at my files, come down here, now I see my two pictures. Now, right now, these are just living in my files. So if I want to move them to this folder that I've created called July 20th pictures, I can do that. So what I can do, I can open my cat photo here, look at the original. Oops, sorry, I'm zooming in. I can share it, add it to an album. I can play a slideshow of my images. This is going left to right across all the things you could do with an image once you've gotten it open. I can edit it, which is kind of fun. I could download it again so that I have it back on my desktop as well, delete it, or view the original. Okay, but what I want to do is I want to move it. So let's see, where do we see if I can move it? Well, I think I'm going to check these three little dots here. That's going to be embed, edit tags, or copy to. Well, let's go ahead and try copying it. So I'm going to copy it from that My Files section to July 20th pictures. So I'm going to say, okay, yes, copy it to this folder. Okay, I got to move my own little self out of the way here. Okay, I'm going to say, yes, copy to July 20th folders. Okay, and then I'm going to say copy. And then I have to just hit copy up here, that blue copy button, and now it's going to copy it. So now if I X out of here, out of my folder, and I come up to my July 28th pictures folder, now I have my cat reaching here in the July 20th pictures. Okay. The other thing I could do, if I didn't want to do a copy of it, but I just wanted to move it, I can actually pick up, oops, let me go back here just a second. I can pick up, normally I can, oh, sorry, I can select it like this, and then I can move it to the July 20th pictures. And then it should pop it. Oops, didn't do it. Let's see. Should be able to, oh, right here. So, okay, let me go back for just a second. When I'm ready to move it, I don't want to copy it, but I want to move it. I'll select it by putting a little blue check mark here. And then you'll know, if you notice, when I do that, some other options come up where the new and download button are just below that blue bar. So if you can see where it says right now, it says new and upload. Once I've hit that check mark, I get a whole bunch of different things I can do with this particular photo. So just like we did before where we hit copy to for our cat reaching, for our kitten in the tree, I'm going to say move to, and it's going to pull up that same possibility of moving it somewhere else in my files. I'll pick the July 20th pictures and say move. And then what that's going to do is move it in here. So it's not only, I have this as a copy and this one has been moved. Okay, so again, it's a lot like what you can do on your actual computer where you can move files and folders and organize it however you'd like. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my files here. If I want to create, let's see, I've created the new folder and I've moved things. Now, if I want to, let's go into our folder here. Let's go into kitten. If I want to share my kitten, all I have to do is hit share. And then I can set whether or not the person I'm sharing the kitten with can edit the photo or only see it. And I can share a link for them to view it. I can also email it to someone. I can set an expiration date, which means that's when they would no longer have access to it. And I can password protect it. Down here more, I could share it on Facebook or Twitter and like social media stuff. Okay, so this is where you can control who has access to it when you share it. Okay, other than that, what's up here, if I want to delete it, I can delete it immediately, hitting the delete key, download it to the computer. I can rotate it, I can edit, and I can play it with along with other photos as a slideshow. So if you wanted to show all of your vacation photos to someone and you happen to be at a house with internet, you can pull it up on the computer very easily. Just go into your OneDrive, go in your vacation album, and then play the slideshow of your pictures. Okay. To get back, all I have to do is hit the little X in the top right corner, the one that's blue, which is actually part of the OneDrive. So just be careful to hit this one rather than the one at the very top that turns red. If you do that, that's going to close out of your whole browser. Okay, so we're going to just hit this little X here, and then we're back into our folder for July 20th pictures. Now, when I do upload, and I'm going to upload, you can upload an entire folder. So for example, that vacation album we had, if we had an entire folder of vacation photos and we wanted to just go ahead and upload that entire folder of vacation folders, we could select folder and pull a folder from our desktop and upload that whole folder. Okay. So here I'm going to go ahead and stop and see, is there anyone have any questions so far over how OneDrive works? So you can link it to your computer so that it automatically does this stuff in the background too, if you want. But otherwise you can do, in this case, this would be like our manual and selective uploading that we're doing, manual and selective cloud storage, where we're moving them ourselves. Okay. So I'll pause for a moment in case anybody has questions about what we've covered so far.
I haven't seen any questions come through.
Okay. Good deal. All right, so we've gotten copy. We can rename files too. Once we get them up here, if I thought that kitten tree wasn't descriptive enough, I can highlight it, check mark it, and then I can rename it up here as part of my options, just like sharing it or downloading it or deleting it. So I could rename it, and let's still call it kitten and tree, but I'm going to go ahead and also give the date. Okay. So then I've got kitten tree and the date. Okay, we can add to an album, and again, same options over here, the three little dots, just in most tech things like on the internet, or like you see a menu or something and you see three little dots, it usually means more options. Usually it means more things you could do. So for example, as it just popped up, it says other things you can do with the selected items. So if I tap on those three little dots, I can do something else with it. Okay, so I just wanted you to get kind of an idea, kind of a sense of how this works and what you can do and what kinds of things you can upload. Okay, for security and privacy purposes, of course, you want to consider what you're sharing, who you're sharing it with, and all of that sort of stuff. But this is just to kind of get you to an idea of how these work. Okay. Okay. Any questions about OneDrive? I'm just going to go over my notes real quick and make sure I covered everything I wanted to cover. Let's see.
I don't see anything so far.
Okay, and you can create an album, if you wanted to take both of these together and check mark both of them and say add to album, and then create a new album where you just called it kittens or cats or whatever, and you could create an album. Then when you click on that album, now you have your kittens album, and then you could share that whole album with someone too. And then you can see both photos in it, make a slideshow of it, all that kind of stuff. Okay. The I over here gives you the info. So if in this case, it's the kittens album and I hit I, that's going to give me more information. It's going to tell me who, if I've shared it with anyone, if anyone that I've shared it with could comment on it, like, oh, this is an adorable kitten in a tree, probably going to have to get rescued by the fire department, perhaps. You could have people comment in there. You can see who has access to it. You can add people to it. So it's a way to add like a little bit of a social component to it. So if you're sharing, again, if you're sharing vacation photos with other people you vacationed with, you could do it this way as well. So go ahead and X out of that. Let's X out of that. So, and it's not just for photos too. So if I come back up here to the three little dots, and I go back to my app menu, I can go back to my files. Here is, for example, we have some documents and a test folder. And if you see here where it goes my files, documents, test folder, this should look very similar to what you see in your file explorer, right? Excuse me, where it's basically your file path to get to where your document is. So if I have a test document and I open the test document, here's my test document, and I can add to it. Okay, now it's already saving it automatically, so I don't have to remember to save it. It's already going to be saved. Now, if I go back over here and I go into OneDrive again, I'm going to see if I go into my documents, into my test folder, pull that document up, it's got those edits that I just made. Okay, if I go back and just X out of it up here, and I'm back in my my OneDrive again, I can go back to my files. I could share that file with someone else. They could collaborate with me. You can do just about anything. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I don't see any.
Okay. The last thing I want to cover over here is sort of the view of your files that you can have. A lot like with File Explorer or Finder, I think you can do this with Finder too, where you can view thumbnail images, or you can deal in icons for the files.
Yes. Yeah,
and
you can change your view settings.
Perfect. And you can sort alphabetically or, however you want. So over here on the right-hand side, underneath the diamond for the subscription plans, there's a sort button. where you can sort things by different categories. So we can sort it by name, we can sort it by size. So let's sort by size instead. Excuse me. So now migrate folder has nothing in it. So it's got 0. So it's the smallest. Things with photos are probably the largest. We can sort by descending instead of ascending. So then it's alphabetical backwards. So you can do that. You can also open the view options here and make it a list. So just next to the sorting is a way to view it as a list, a compact list that's shortened together, or what they call tiles, which is like the graphics and the icons. Okay, so that's another way you can organize your information. Okay, down here at the bottom on the left-hand side, you can also see how much space you've used up of your 5 free gigabytes. So right now we've used 1.71 megabytes. So not a whole, we haven't used a whole lot of storage space yet. When you get close to the end of that, that's when maybe you decide you want to upgrade and get more storage and pay for it. Or you can also do what a lot of people do, which is basically sign up for a bunch of different places and use as much free as you can in each one. Just remember, it's hard to keep track of which storage cloud storage provider you have used for what files and what documents. So if you go that route, you might say, okay, I'm going to put all my music, 5 gigs worth of music on OneDrive, and then go to Drive and put 15 gigabytes of pictures. However you want to do it, up to you. Okay. All right. Any questions about OneDrive?
I don't see any.
Okay, so that's pretty much the OneDrive experience. If you're going to create a new, I'll go through creating new stuff real quick here too. So if I'm going to create a new Word document or new thing that I'm going to share with someone, to new, I'll go to Word, and then I can create a new one. So let's go ahead and let it load here. It's going to take a moment. I'll grab a drink while we wait for it. Okay, and then up here at the top where it says document 2, I can actually go ahead and click on that to give it a different name. So let's give it July 20th, cloud storage. Okay, and the location is OneDrive, and I'm going to say, hello, here's a document. Yay, smiley face. Okay, so I've just created this document, right? I can go right from here. It's already been saved to OneDrive, and I can share it with someone. Okay, so now that it's created, let's go back to, I'm going to switch this up here. I'm going to go back to my file. So if you notice, I should have spent a second doing that. So let me go ahead and open it again. Here's our document. Do you see up here where it's in a tab across the top? So this is our tab that has our Word Online document we just created. I'm just going to hit the little X to X out of that. And then it's going to take me back into my second tab, which was the My Files section of OneDrive. Okay, now I can see my July 20th cloud storage document. If I check mark it, I have all the options up here across the top there, like we did for our photo. But this time we can open it, and then we could edit it, but we can also share it. So now I'm going to show you what it looks like when we go ahead and share something. So I'm going to say share. And then I could put in here, anyone with the link can edit this document. So if I want to collaborate again, say for the baby shower, I could put in, I'm going to send it to my friend at Gmail, and then going to say, okay, this is the person I want to send it to, puts it there. Then they're going to get this. Now, if you want to change their permissions, if you see the little pencil where it says can edit, you can click on that and you can say can view, or can edit, or can get just the link. Okay, and then you can copy the link and you can send it to someone else if you want. Okay, go ahead and remove that though. Okay, so that's how you would actually share something. Okay, and if you want to join us next week, Rebecca is going to be teaching our Google Docs sheets and slides Google Tools class, and we will actually demo what it looks like when you and someone else are live live editing a document. So feel free to tune into that if you're curious what that looks like. Okay. All right. We've talked about moving and sharing. Okay. Any other questions about OneDrive before I move on to Google? And moving on to Google Drive.
I haven't seen any.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and what I always like to do is go ahead and log out and fully sign out of something, especially on a shared computer. Since this one is in our shared office, I'm going to go ahead and hit sign out so that it signs me completely out of OneDrive. Okay. And then I can X out of it there. I'm going to do the same thing here. Sign out. Okay. And now I will stop sharing that one and we'll switch to the next one. Okay. And we'll share our Google stuff. So for Google, where I'm going to start, I went to mail.google.com and logged in with my Gmail account, which is basically a Google account. So it's your email address with Gmail and then your password. And that'll bring you to your email like this. And then I went ahead and hit the 9 dots up here in the right-hand corner next to the big C. And then went to Drive, which is the one that looks a little bit like a triangle. And then that will open in a new tab. And then I can use Drive. You don't have to go through your email. That's just my pattern of what I usually do. But you can also go directly to drive.google.com and sign in directly to Drive from there. Okay. All right. So now that I'm in Drive, you'll see a little bit like OneDrive in that the central panel here is where your files are living and your folders are living. Your search is up here in the top middle. You can create new stuff off here on the left-hand side. You can also navigate through your different folders and things like your trash, anything that's recent. Those are all going to be here on the left-hand side still. And then on the right-hand side, you still have your options over here for help and your settings and your account information. Okay, so I'm going to go through this stuff in a little bit more detail. So for example, here we have our search again. What should we search for? Should we see if we've done the same images as before and put in puppy? Oh, it says no recent items. Okay, let's see, puppies. Nope. Let's try cat. Nope. Okay, we might have to upload some stuff here. All right, so, but that's how you would search. So if I wanted to search for test, because I'm sure I've labeled something test. Yep, okay, here we go. So if I was looking for the test document, it will pull up in the search results all of those that include the word test in them. I've made quite a few things that say test in our Google Drive. Okay, so that's searching. Oops, okay, over here. You can also further limit your search with your search options, which is the 3 little bars here with the little lines that look a little bit like a slider bar. So you could do whether you own it or if someone else owns it and has shared it with you, your location, the type of document, so you can do a lot of refined searching. So putting in test brought up so many results. What I could do is I could say, okay, I want something that includes the word test, but was also created in the last, 6 months, perhaps, or 7 days, or 90 days, or whatever. Okay, so I could also do it that way. Okay, so let's go back. I'm going to refresh this here. Let's go back and leave that alone. And go back to my drive. So over here on the left-hand side where it says my drive, again, that's like my files in the other one where you're basically at your landing page where you can see all of your things that you've created. Okay. We're going to continue to go along the top here on the right-hand side, your support or help menu right here with the question mark, your settings right here in the gear. Again, so the gear is kind of a universal symbol for settings. And then the 9 dots over here would take you to other applications within Google. And then your profile information and ability to sign out is here under that C or whatever your first letter of your first name would be. Okay, just under that, we have my drive. And under the My Drive, you can create a new folder, or you can upload files or folders, or you can navigate to different different web-based applications like Google Docs and Sheets and Slides and other things along those lines. Okay, so if I wanted to create something new, I could also come over here to where it says new with the big plus, and you'll see I get a very similar menu to what I get over here on My Drive, which is I can create a new folder, or I can upload folders or files. So let's go ahead and do a file upload. And let's go ahead and take our puppies now. And we're going to go ahead and say open. And we're going to upload our 2 puppy folders, or files rather. Okay. So we've updated our 2 puppies. And you see right there, it came up and it said, okay, they're now added. So now I'm going, okay, where did I put those? Let's see down here. Okay, well, here's our chocolate puppy. And because it's, let's see, I think right now I have them sorted to be alphabetical by title. So he came up first because it was chocolate. And the other one I think is just under puppy eyes. So he's down here. Okay. So if I wanted to put them in a specific folder, I could certainly do that. I just would create a folder. So I go over to new folder, and we're going to call it July 20th pictures, just like we did before, and create that folder. Now that folder is going to be here. Come down to my chocolate lab. I'm going to go ahead and select chocolate lab here. Whoops. And I can drag and drop him into the folder. Okay, so now he's going to be in July 20th pictures. I can also do like we did with the other one, where if I open it, let's take puppy eyes. Let's open puppy eyes. So here we've got puppy eyes open. We can say open with, and open with something here, or move it there. Up at the top, someone could add a comment. We could print it. We could download it. Or where our 3 little dots are, we have more actions. And here we could share it with someone else or move it somewhere. So we're going to move it. And we're going to move it to the July 20th pictures and say move. Okay, so again, very similar for moving and copying things, where you can move and copy them and arrange them however you want in your cloud storage, just like you would do with your regular desktop computer. Okay, so once I've got that here, if I go and double check in July 20th pictures, we can now see my 2 pictures in here. Okay, so let's say I want to do some more with my chocolate puppy file here. I want to share it with someone. I can also, as long as it's highlighted, so if you see it turns blue when I've selected it, so I'm going to select the chocolate puppy, and you'll see up here I have the ability to do things with the folder. So I can get a link for the folder. I can share, sorry, with the particular picture. I can share it through a link. I can share it with a specific person by clicking on here. Now here I can add a person. I can add people or groups or a person that I want to share it with. So for example, if I wanted to share it with, Champaign Library, whatever, I could do that. If I want to share it with Champaign Librarian, gmail.com, hit that. And then here is where I can decide whether they get to edit, to view, or comment. Okay. If you check mark the box that says notify people, they do get an email message telling them that a file has been shared with them. And then your settings up here allows you to say whether or not editors can also share it with someone else and change the permissions. Again, remember we talked about you can share it online with one person. You don't know where it goes. You might not know where it goes after that. If you allow them to edit and you check mark this box in Google Drive, that person can then change permissions and share with other people too. Okay. You also have the option to say viewers can download or print or copy it. That's another way to basically set the premise of what kinds of permissions you want to let people have, whether or not you share those. For example, our vacation album, if you wanted to share your vacation album with someone else and you want them to be able to download all of the pictures so that then they could maybe print them and put them up on their wall and frame them, you might say, yes, I want everybody to be able to view it and download it and print it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that though. We won't actually send that today. You could also, again, get the link directly. You can also do advanced things like restricting, just like you could in OneDrive, where you can set it to have permissions for a certain length of time where then the link will expire. Okay. You can preview the image by opening the little eyeball there. We'll give you the preview image. If you hit the back arrow over here on the left-hand side, that will take you back to your main view of your folder. You can send it to the trash by clicking on the little trash can that says remove. You can also, more actions, again, just like we had before with the 3 little dots. You can also show the file location. You can view details. So just like we saw the little eye before, it's also over here on the right-hand side, just past the 3 little dots. You can also hit this to view the details. And what that's going to tell you is details will tell you information about the file, if it's been shared, who it's been shared with, the size of the file, location, me, because I'm the owner. If you have something that's been shared by someone else, you can also do the same thing there and see that it's been shared by someone else to you or with you. And we'll talk more about that next week as well when we talk about docs and sheets and slides. Okay. Questions about Google Drive so far? Make sure I give time for people to ask things if they'd like.
I don't see anything.
Okay, so the view, again, just like in the other one, we can change our view. If we tap the little grid here, it's going to be list view or grid view. So this is list view, where it just lists out the file name. And there's a little thumbnail there. And if it's grid view, then you can see the larger thumbnail image. Okay, let's go back to my drive so you can see everything here. Same thing as before with the other one. If you want to know how much space you've used, down here in the left-hand bottom corner, we've used 21 megabytes of 15 gigabytes. And if you click on it, that's going to tell you how much there's your storage. This is everything that's in here, okay, and how much it's used. Okay. Now, if you have a phone, an Android phone, and you link your Android phone with Google Drive, you might see down here where it says storage, you might actually see a backup, and the backup would be for your phone and for your phone contacts, and your pictures will go to Google Photos. Just like in iCloud, they go to iCloud. So, okay. All right. Any other questions? Let's see, it's very similar.
We do have a question.
Sure. Yes.
Someone says, if I delete a picture from my computer, will it be removed from cloud when it backs up?
That depends entirely on how you have things set up on your home computer. So if you have it set up so that your home computer syncs with your cloud provider, then you have to double check and make sure that you're not, okay, I'll start again. So if you delete the picture off of your computer and you have it set so that your phone and your computer sync, then you'll have to check and see if it's still in your phone or in your backup in the cloud. If you have them set to sync, generally what happens is your phone detect and your computer detect what's there between the two of them, and it notices what's different. So it works both ways though too. So if you have your phone set to back up to the cloud and you delete something directly off of your phone, it may or may not still be in the cloud based on your settings. So you'll want to go into your settings on your phone and confirm. What I usually tell people to do is take a picture of something you don't care about and then delete it off of your phone and see if it remains in your iCloud or your Google Drive storage. If it doesn't, that means you have them set to sync, which means that if you delete it in one place, it automatically deletes it in the other. Okay. I hope that kind of helps answer the question.
I should also say, on my phone, I have iCloud because I have an iPhone. It sometimes will pop up with a message saying, like, if I go to delete something, saying that it will be deleted from my cloud. So it's possible you might have a pop-up. Now that's not, it depends on your like if you're using OneDrive or Google Drive, it depends on the system. So it might not have a pop-up, it might, but I like what you were saying, Susan, about the test thing, because that's really going to be the way is actually going and doing it.
Yes, and then you can change it. So if you find that it does delete off of both places, then you can go into your settings and you can find the setting for making sure that it doesn't, that if it's stored in the cloud, it stays only in the cloud, deletes off of your phone. And I will suggest too that when we teach our file storage class, we do talk about the rule of redundancy, and essentially the recommendation is to have 3 types of storage if you to really be safe with your files, especially all of your important files, like maybe your photos or tax documents or whatever. And that is to have 1 on your local machine, 1 in the cloud, and 1 offsite. So if it's in the cloud, it's already offsite, so that counts for twofold for both of those things. But you might also consider having it backed up on an external hard drive or some other physical backup that you can put in, like a safe deposit box or a fireproof safe, or whatever. And again, this is sort of the best practices ideas too. So not everyone has the time to do all of that. So a lot of folks will, they'll just get a service like Backblaze or some of the other ones that are mentioned in PC Magazine that are solely for backing up stuff to the cloud. And they'll say, okay, here's my computer. Here's the data. I want you to back it up. Do this once a month. And then that system does is it says, okay, what's new that was not here last time? And then it adds that to the backup. Okay. So that's one way where it's kind of automated behind the scenes. But if you want more control over what stuff is backed up in the cloud, then you might want to do it manually and do things like this where you're going to upload it specifically with intention. So the other nice thing about some of these services like Drive and OneDrive is that they also allow you to do that cloud computing where you can collaborate with other people for documents and you can share stuff pretty easily with others. So yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, I recommend going into your settings and trying that. Take a picture of something you don't care about, put it in there, and then double check to see if it actually removes it from both locations. I know it's true for example, for me, I have OneDrive on my home computer, and it does sync, which means basically it's scanning the computer and saying, okay, this is new stuff since the last time, so I'm going to add this stuff to the OneDrive. You might do that with your phone as well, but do consider what stuff you're putting up there too. If it's really private personal information, maybe you don't want to put it in the cloud. Maybe you actually want a physical hard copy of it that's in a safe deposit box. It's totally up to you. These are just some options that are out there. Okay. It all comes down to you and the customization that you want for your stuff.
I don't see any other questions so far.
Okay. Well, if there aren't any other questions, let me jump back here, and then I'm going to go ahead and we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up. I do want everyone to know we do have the Illinois Attorney General's office coming Monday night. They will be starting at 7 o'clock. That one will not be recorded. So if you're interested, I do recommend you attend live in person. They're going to come and talk about what the Attorney General's office can do for you, even if they have resources for preventing identity theft and online scams and how to identify them and how to protect your identity. And then they also have information for those of you that maybe have been the victim of identity theft or scams to report them, and the process that you can go through to sort of recover some of that information, and the process that you can go through to help with that stuff. Again, that one will not be recorded, so I do recommend folks go ahead and come that evening if you'd like. You can sign up online just like you do for our other workshops. And I will add, speaking of our August workshops here, let me jump down here. Oops. So the other upcoming workshops that we have, oops, yeah, it doesn't, you're right, Rebecca, it doesn't automatically do it, does it?
It never does. I don't know why. I think maybe
That's interesting.
It's a Zoom thing.
Must be. So I'm gonna go ahead and share this again, and we'll go from current slide. Nope. All right, well, I'm going to zip through these real fast. Just ignore. This is everything we just covered. The navigating through the different Google Drive questions and things. Okay, so we also have included a list of additional resources, including some tutorials. And this is a really interesting YouTube video inside a Google Data Center, which is kind of cool if you're more interested in the physical things that are out there. And then some links to iCloud and iCloud training courses through LinkedIn. And then here's my contact information as well. And you can always reach out to me with questions. Everybody at the desk is happy to help too. So feel free to contact us. And then as we said, next week's is Intro to Google Docs, which is into cool tools, docs, sheets, and slides. So that gets you even more familiar with some of the collaborative things that you can do once you have signed up for a Google account. And then in August, we have Intro to Streaming Services, Intro to Finding Podcasts. That is a new workshop that we're trying out. We're going to help you try to find podcasts and how to listen to them. And then we also have Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, some social media workshops. TikTok is new. The workshop is new. TikTok itself has been out for a little while now. But we are delving into teaching folks how to use TikTok. So that should be fun as well. And then you can always book a librarian, like we've said. You can check out live chat or email us, and we're always happy to help. So please feel free to get a hold of us. And again, I'll pull up the information about, let me pull it up through the browser here. So if you'd like to sign up for the Attorney General's, you can go to champaign.org/events. And then on our calendar, down here on the 26th, just go ahead and tap on the one at 7 p.m. Internet Safety for Adults, and then tap sign up here, and then it'll take you to Zoom where you can sign up for it. Again, that one will not be recorded. So I do recommend, if you'd like to hear what they have to say, that you attend in person. They usually have a lot of good information. I had no idea how much the Attorney General's office does until they came last time. So I do recommend it. All righty. And that's all I have.
Yeah,
for
if anybody
today.
has any questions, feel free to put it in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, you can speak your question if that's easier.
Yeah. And yeah, the most confusing, I think you're all right that the most confusing thing about cloud is, if it's in the cloud, is it also still on my computer? And if I delete it from one, does it delete it from the other? And that is the biggest thing that is controlled by your individual settings that you have, and how your system is set up. So, and we're happy to help with that too. If you want to do a book a librarian, and we can go through settings and figure out what settings you have set, and then what to change to. So, okay.
Well, I don't see any other questions, but feel free to reach out if you have any after class.
Yes. And feel free to join us next week. Rebecca will be teaching on Tuesday, and feel free to join us Monday night if you'd like as well. It should be a really good informative session.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a good
Thanks,
afternoon.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.